I'm not at home on crowded streets. They don't appeal to me. In the heart of God's cathedral is where I want to be. So I take the outside circle when the stars are growing dim, see the morning light play shadows all along the canyon rim. I feel the prairie wake and flush a dozen bobwhite quail as I guide my favorite cowhorse down a rough and rocky trail. I ride through mountain country, gaze across the great divide as I trail majestic mustangs that no man will ever ride. A red-tailed hawk is screaming as he searches for his prey, and the cottonwoods are yellow on this crisp November day. I crave the open spaces where the sky is blue and wide. Somewhere west of Wall Street is where my heart and soul reside. Thanks for riding along with us as we explore another trail somewhere west of Wall Street. Today we're in the mining district of the little city of CrippleCrk, Colorado. Somewhere West of Wall Street is brought to you by our friends at the American Quarter Horse Association, celebrating 75 years. By Cactus Saddles, the choice of champions. By Cactus Ropes, let's go rope. By Resist All Hats, best all around. By Cactus Gear. By Hillmatic, real people, real results. Cowboys and Indians Magazine, the premier magazine of the West. By Jerry Durant Auto Group, a Texas tradition for 45 years, located in Weatherford, Texas. The National Ranching Heritage Center, located on the campus of Texas Tech University in Lubbock, Texas. And by the Texas Department of Agriculture and its Go Texan program.
From deep inside the roots of Texas to the landscapes across this great state, the most beautiful living turf grass, trees, and flowers in the world come from right here at home.
Friends, Texas agriculture matters. Look for the Go Texan brand and buy Go Texan.
Hi folks, I'm Red Steagall, and I believe in keeping our country strong with products made right here in the USA. Since 1927, Resistol has been known as the cowboy hat and produces over 3,000 a day in their Garland, Texas facility. Resistol uses the finest quality fur to manufacture their own hat bodies and is the true measure of X quality. From country music stars to ranch and rodeo cowboys, Resistol has been manufacturing headwear for almost a century right here in the USA. CrippleCrk, Colorado was not much more than a pretty good cow pasture in the 1870s. Sitting on the southwest slope of Pikes Peak in the south central part of the state, gold prospector Bob Womack called the area Poverty Gulch. This was probably a reflection of Bob's current finances when he was panning for gold in a small creek that ran through the valley. The creek was named for the cow that fell off in it and broke her leg, and for the cowboy who broke his leg trying to get her out. The cowboy supposedly remarked that this was some crippled creek. Fur traders had worked up and down the creek in the early 1800s, and the Ute Indians lived and hunted there before that. And then the ranchers moved in with their cattle and started grazing the slopes of the mountain. And that's about all you can say about the area before Bob discovered gold in the creek. Bob Womack was an old cowboy who had a small ranch in the CrippleCrk area. He had grown up on the family farm back in Kentucky and had come west with his family at the tail end of the Pikes Peak gold rush in 1861. Womack found no gold, so Bob's father, with the intention of ranching, purchased a homestead in Pisgah Park, a somewhat open area along CrippleCrk. But Bob wasn't into ranching. He had a theory that there had to be gold in the valley, so he spent most of his time searching for it. One day in 1878, he found it, right there in the creek. His ore sample assayed at $200 a ton, or about 10 troy ounces of gold per ton. That'd be more than $15,000 per ton today. For the next several years, Bob worked up and down the creek looking for the vein of gold that was feeding the creek with the nuggets he had found. And in 1886, he staked a claim. It's like the old story of the sheep herder who falsely cried wolf so many times that finally when a wolf really did show up, no one believed him. So no help came. In that same vein, 2 years before Bob staked his claim, 3 con men had salted a prospect hole at nearby Mount McIntyre. In other words, they planted some gold in a hole, hoping to sell their claim for a lot of money. The con men put up a fake claim sign and called the press. However, it didn't take long for some experienced miners to identify the fraud, and hundreds of would-be gold barons turned back in disgust. Just like the wolf story, the miners had been fooled once already, and they weren't about to fall for another fake claim. But Bob kept looking, and in October 1890, with a pick and a shovel, he dug 30 feet into Tenderfoot Hill. There it was. Bob found gold ore. Bob hustled on down to the assay office in Colorado Springs and filed his claim, calling it the El Paso Lode. The find assayed at $250 a ton. This time, his discovery attracted some interest. Geologist Ed D. LaVerge staked a 6-square-mile area around Bob's claim and named it the CrippleCrk Mining District. Within weeks, thousands of miners and prospectors, gamblers and fortune seekers set up tents, cabins, and lean-tos along a dirt street of what they were now calling the town of CrippleCrk. Yellow pine shelters, saloons, dance halls, and gaming houses sprang up. By 1893, there were 10,000 people in town, and they were still coming at the rate of 500 a month. Many of those who hit town had been farmers back east and had no idea what gold ore even looked like. Some didn't even know how to pitch a tent or build a fire, but they had caught gold fever. And from 1890 to 1910, more than 22 million ounces of gold, some $500 million worth were extracted from 500 mines in the CrippleCrk Mining District, which includes CrippleCrk and the neighboring town of Victor. There were 27 millionaires whose wealth originated in the gold mines around CrippleCrk, but Bob Womack wasn't one of them. Bob's El Paso Lode later became the Gold King mine, and it eventually produced $5 million in gold. But Bob didn't get any of it. And there are several stories about Bob's sale of his mine. Some say that he lost it in a poker game. Others say he sold it to pay a hospital bill. And then there are those who say that he sold it for $500 in a bottle. Regardless, he did sell it. And since the family ranch had also been sold, Bob ended up doing odd jobs for his sister, who owned a boarding house in Colorado Springs. He suffered a stroke in 1904 and died penniless in 1909. In just a moment, we'll return with more of our story of CrippleCrk and her days of glory.
For perfect practice, the serious roper's only choice is Helo-Matic. Used and endorsed by Clay O'Brien Cooper, Rich Skelton, David Key. Helo-Matic's patented hop simulates real live steer action like no other product on the market, from the tow-behind sleds and machines to the bones-heading dummy, and now Joe Beaver's next calf roping dummy. Helo-Matic gives every roper perfect practice.
In the developing years of the American West, life depended on few essentials for survival. Those resilient pioneers forged the way for our future, and that's why their stories of self-reliance are still talked about. At the National Ranching Heritage Center, we believe not only in preserving that legacy, but also in nurturing it. Help preserve the image of our nation's livestock industry by becoming a member of the Ranching Heritage Association. Visit ranchingheritage.org to become a part of a living legacy.
But others did profit from the gold strike. On July 4, 1891, W.S. Stratton staked 2 claims on the south slope of Battle Mountain. He called the 2 claims the Independence and the Washington in honor of the holiday. Some assays from the Independence lode showed $380 per ton of gold ore, and one boulder from the Independence brought $60,000. The next year, Stratton also hit gold in the Washington mine and became the CrippleCrk district's first millionaire. Well, like most booming gold camps, CrippleCrk wasted no time establishing dozens of businesses, including a number of saloons and brothels. At first, the houses of ill repute were located near the many saloons along the main street of the settlement. However, the town marshal moved the girls and their establishments 1 block south to Myers Avenue, which soon became known as the Red Light District. Myers Avenue was known as one of the liveliest streets in the Old West. The phrase, "There'll be a hot time in the old town tonight," was coined on this street filled with parlor houses, cribs, dance halls, and false-fronted saloons. Businesses there never closed, operating 24 hours a day, providing entertainment to the many free-spending miners. By 1896, CrippleCrk boasted a population of 10,000 residents. The National Hotel was completed in 1896, complete with Turkish baths, an elevator, and its own electric light plant. It contained 150 rooms, 40 suites, and a restaurant with fine cuisine. On April 25, 1896, a fire wiped out nearly half the city. Started in one of the many brothels, the wooden frame buildings of the town quickly ignited, and flames spread from one building to the next. Buildings in the fire's path were blown up in an effort to stop the approaching flames. The fire department of Victor, Florence, Colorado Springs, and Denver dashed to the city's aid. But there was little that could be done. 4 days later, half the city lay in smoldering ruins. Then a second fire alarm went off. In this second fire, 8 blocks of buildings were consumed, 6 lives were lost, and nearly 4,000 residents were left homeless. When it was all said and done, less than 10 buildings were left in the town. But CrippleCrk began to rebuild, and within just a few months, modern businesses built of brick or stone rose on the foundations of the former structures. By 1898, the mines were yielding greater amounts of valuable ore, and production jumped to some $16 million. By 1899, gold production had reached $21 million, and CrippleCrk was named the county seat. By this time, the town supported 75 saloons, 25 restaurants, 4 department stores, a business college, 40 stockbrokers, and 72 lawyers. By 1900, gold production had reached some $23 million, and more than 500 mines were operating in the area. The CrippleCrk Times reported that the mining district had grown to 55,000 citizens, and of those residents, CrippleCrk boasted 35,000. Soon, however, the gold began to play out, and by 1920 there were only about 40 mines operating. Production had been reduced to $4 million. The 1930s saw a brief revival of mining, but this too waned, and by 1945 there were less than 20 mines operating, with only about $1 million in gold produced that year. By the end of the 1950s, the easy gold was all gone. There were no more nuggets to be found. It was hard rock mining, and on the average, it took 100 tons of rock to produce 1 ounce of gold. And using the labor available at the time, it was no longer profitable to mine the gold. CrippleCrk was dying. But by the mid-1960s, technology began to be applied to the gold mining industry, just like it was in all the other industries in our world, and once again it became profitable to mine the gold in the CrippleCrk area. But because of the technology, fewer miners were required, and still the town lingered on the verge of being a ghost town. So the city fathers went to work on promoting their town, and in 1991, the Colorado State Legislature approved the operation of casino gambling in CrippleCrk. Today there are 9 casinos in town, and recently the legislature approved the sale of liquor 24 hours a day. It's deja vu for CrippleCrk. Just like it was around the turn of the 20th century, entertainment is available about any time one would want it. There's one big difference, however. CrippleCrk's last bordello is closed, and today that structure houses a museum of the area. Mining is still ongoing in CrippleCrk, with the CrippleCrk and Victor Gold Mining Company operating 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And gold mining in CrippleCrk is legendary. More gold was taken out of the CrippleCrk mining district than there was anywhere else in North America, including California and Alaska. In today's dollars, it is estimated that CrippleCrk has produced $7 billion worth of gold. It produced 2/3 of the gold from Colorado and 1/4 of the gold of the entire country. It all started with poor old Bob Womack. Even though he never profited from his discovery of gold, he was honored in 1902 as Grand Marshal of the 4th of July Parade, and today one of the casinos in town is named for him. In just a moment, we'll return and look around CrippleCrk and visit with Howard Melching, the Assistant Director of the CrippleCrk District Museum. Hang on, we're coming right back. If you still don't have your copy of Barbecue Biscuits and Beans, friends, here's your chance. If you order one of these books, you can learn how to cook some mouth-watering dishes in Dutch ovens or over the open fire, just like Bill and Cliff do. Here's how you order. Give us a call at 800-457-7966 or look us up on our website, inthebunkhouse.tv.com. It's cowboy cooking at its finest. Give us a call. Thanks, my friends. Jerry, I heard something pretty amazing. Y'all now have 4th generation customers.
Well, Red, when you treat people like family, they keep coming back.
Looks to me like Jerry's has become a family tradition.
We work hard to make sure our customers have a great buying experience.
And almost 50 years. What keeps you going?
After all these years, I still love putting the right person in the right vehicle at the best price.
I'm proud to introduce you folks to Howard Melching. He has a couple of titles around here. He's the Assistant Director of the CrippleCrk District Museum, and he's the President of the Gold Camp Victorian Society. And we're going to talk about the history of CrippleCrk and where CrippleCrk is today. Howard, how did you get here? You've been in Colorado for quite some time?
I've been in Colorado for 33 years. I actually came here when I was still on active duty in the Air Force.
This is a beautiful little cabin we're in at your museum, the CrippleCrk District Museum. And this is a miner's cabin, which is outfitted almost exactly like it would have been during the gold mining era.
That's exactly right. CrippleCrk, of course, was established as a town in 1892, and this cabin reflects a cabin that you would have found during that period.
How about your museum? What are all the things in your museum that we can look at?
Well, the museum is a comprehensive collection of all the historic artifacts of the CrippleCrk District. Includes not only the entertainment history, the mining history, the railroad history, the houses of ill repute, all kinds of things that happened in CrippleCrk during its history. And it's the most complete collection of artifacts from this area that you will find around here.
And you have a railroad that runs through town, because we heard the horn going off a while ago, or the whistle going off. How far does the railroad go?
Well, the little tourist railroad that's set up here was actually a little 2-foot narrow gauge train that was brought in for that specific purpose. And it runs about 3 miles from here towards Victor, turns around and comes back. And it's a narrated trip for the history of CrippleCrk and a lot of great views of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains from there.
So Victor's not very far from CrippleCrk. So this is part of the CrippleCrk Mining District. Was Victoria part of the mining district?
Yes, CrippleCrk Mining District, of course CrippleCrk being the largest city, but it included about 10 different towns, including Victor.
No kidding. And today, there is still some gold mining going on in this part of the world.
Most definitely. The CrippleCrk Victor gold mine is the 3rd highest producing gold mine in the United States today. Last year, they produced $438 million in gold up there. Today, they're producing over $1 million a day as we speak.
That's pretty substantial. The other things that would draw people to CrippleCrk today are the casinos. You have quite a few casinos?
Yes, we have quite a few casinos. There's probably 8 or 10 currently in the town, all of them offering all kinds of wonderful venues for meals and shows and places to stay. It's also a very wonderful place to visit.
And you have plenty of lodging here, plenty of motels and hotels.
We have both hotels, motels, and bed and breakfasts. And some of the bed and breakfasts are extremely nice, all very Victorian. One of them, as a matter of fact, is a bed and breakfast made out of the old CrippleCrk High School, which is a very, very fine venue.
Yeah. And you have a lot of shopping. The streets are really nice and wide, and a lot of shops and a lot of old buildings that really have a lot of character.
We did, and the whole business district was revamped all of last summer, much to the dismay of some of the merchants because it tied up the road. But we have nice wide sidewalks and good streets now and good lighting. The shops are easy to get in and out of. It's a great place to come and shop for that special little thing you may want to take home with you.
What if I wanted to bring my family in the summer or winter? Is the town open in the wintertime?
Well, the town is definitely open in the wintertime. Of course, the casinos never close. But we have an ice festival up here in the month of February that is particularly attractive for family.
And in the summertime?
In the summertime, it's unlimited. We have everything. It all kicks off with primarily donkey derby days at the end of June, with parades and vendors and skits. And we have the Salute to American Veterans Parade in August. We have the Victor Gold Rush Days in Victor in July. There are many, many things to do in the summertime here. And the donkeys are allowed to roam free all summer. And they're there for the visitors to visit with and feed and they have a good time.
Why are the donkeys allowed to run free? Because they work so hard in the mines?
Yeah. They are it's part of a group of 15 donkeys that are maintained by a local club called the 2 Mile High Club. And these donkeys are not just turned loose. They they are turned loose in the summer and they eat people's gardens and go around and eat whatever they find. But it's important to know that these are the town pets, and they receive routine veterinary care. They receive housing and feed in the wintertime. So they're well cared for, and you can tell by looking at them they're well fed too.
And I noticed that we have some open pit mines here, but also we had a lot of underground mines. And did those donkeys work underground all during that time?
Yes, as a matter of fact, when the CrippleCrk Victor open pit gold mine was, they're doing their open pit mining, they're uncovering a lot of shafts from the previous mining. And some of the things they find in there, besides old pieces of mining equipment and mining carts, are the remains of donkeys. It's interesting to note that the donkeys, many of them spent their entire lives underground. As a result, were blind.
Yes, never saw the light of day.
Right.
So if I wanted to bring my family to CrippleCrk, it's a wonderful place to bring a family. It's if you want to bring your girlfriend for a weekend or your boyfriend for a weekend of gambling and entertainment, CrippleCrk's the place to go. Am I correct?
You're right. And the venues that we have here, not just the gaming, but we have a very fine theater called the Butte Theater with live entertainment. We have live entertainment at the Gold Bar Room in the Imperial Hotel. There are many things to do. Fine restaurants, great steakhouses, any kind of food you wish. It's a very fine place to spend a weekend.
Howard, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
As you folks plan your trip to CrippleCrk, Colorado. We'll be right back. Cowboys and Indians magazine is in a class of its own, blending history and tradition with the romance and culture of the modern West. Cowboy and native art, breathtaking photos, and handicraft works by jewelers, bootmakers, and designers. Meet top chefs, go inside gorgeous homes and ranches, travel to bucket list destinations, and get acquainted with Hollywood stars and musicians who embody the Western spirit. Visit cowboysindians.com or pick up the latest issue on newsstands everywhere. Cowboys and Indians, the premier magazine.
Achievement is fused one thread at a time, tightly twisting the strands of sweat, dedication, mind, and heart into the tightly woven cable of preparation. I am your rope. I am cactus.
As you folks know by now, this is my favorite part of the show, where we pause to give thanks to the one who made all of this possible. Our song of inspiration is brought to you by our friends at the American Quarter Horse Association.
I am weak, but thou art strong. Jesus, keep me from all wrong. I'll be satisfied as long as I walk. Let me walk close to thee. Just a closer walk with thee. Granted, Jesus is my plea. Daily walking close to thee. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be. Just a closer walk with thee. Granted, Jesus is my plea. Daily walking close to thee. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be.
Well, as my old daddy would say, we got this one saucered and blowed. It's time for us to ride on out of here. We hope we taught you something about the West that you didn't know or maybe brought back an old memory. Before we leave, I want to give you something to think about till next week. Robert Penn said, "The lack of a sense of history is the damnation of the modern world." Thank you, Robert. I'd like to invite you folks to join us every week on your radio for Cowboy Corner, and then join us right here next week as we explore another trail somewhere west of Wall Street. Adios, my friends. This has been a Thunderhead production.